boy, someone's got some noise. And we're live.
Well, all right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. This is once again Gen City Labs LinkedIn live session. If you guys have attended a previous version in the past, first, thank you for joining us live. If you're joining us remotely or listening to this after, we appreciate that too. We have a variety of guests from the marketing universe come and join us to talk all about brand experiences and unique technologies and their application to a variety of different audiences. Today, we have Josh Freed with the Solana Foundation joining us to talk a little bit about how crypto and blockchain are going to impact consumer experiences, both in the marketing space, but also in their day-to-day lives. So as you may know, I'm Mike Shaman. I'm CEO of Gen City Labs. With us as well, working the board, is MK Badowski, our fabulous head of marketing, Eric Arva, our head of strategy. So thank you once again, and welcome, Josh. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you and a little bit about Solana?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I am a 2-year veteran of the Solana universe. I joined first Solana Labs in late 2021. After about a decade at Google, working in the shopping and commerce product areas, as well as at Waze, where I helped build a new transportation service called Waze Carpool that was connecting drivers and riders to share the roads together. But I joined Solana in late 21 after seeing Solana go through the Solana summer. those who followed crypto probably were paying attention. Solana really hit the roadmap. Because it was and is a super fast, very cheap, extremely powerful and secured public blockchain that allows for all kinds of amazing consumer experiences. And having spent a decade at Google and building consumer experiences is something that I love to help do. Full disclosure, not an engineer. I'm a BD and partnerships and general management type guy, but I help engineers, bring products to market. And there were some really great people working in the Solana space that I knew and started speaking to about blockchain and this tech in particular. And so I took the plunge in late 21 and helped launch the payments vertical at Solana. So Solana Pay is the protocol that powers a lot of these payments and commerce and loyalty experiences we can talk about today. And then I moved over to Solana Foundation about 9 months ago. So the Solana Foundation is where we help grow the ecosystem around our different composable Lego building blocks is how we like to think of the different things that are being built on Solana. So yeah, it's been a wild couple of years. A lot has happened in crypto. A lot has happened in Solana. I've learned a tremendous amount, but I'm having a lot of fun. And I feel like we're helping change the world a little bit, one person at a time, maybe, but trying to grow that pie as much as possible and build products and services on the Solana blockchain that everybody can use and gain a little value and utility out of.
Awesome. And before we dive in deeper, the one thing I will say to my team and to you, Josh, we do need to embargo tomorrow's announcement, or actually, I guess the official press announcements are a week away, but we're actually, the reason that we know Josh is because we're launching a project tomorrow with a major automotive manufacturer that's very involved in the sports marketing universe. It's going to be a really exciting project, and it's going to gather a lot of attention, although I don't want to let the cat out of the bag a day early. So more to come on our LinkedIn, and then PR will be a few weeks trailing that. But yeah, we started investigating Solana as an alternative to some of the other chains out there. We had launched our own project on Ethereum mainnet, found it was fairly expensive and a little bit volatile when you have people minting it at fairly high costs for our consumer base. And I think from a brand perspective, just to bring it down to a brand experience standpoint, what brands are looking for is something that they can forecast against from a cost perspective, something that doesn't cost their consumers any money. something that has an on-ramp that is friction-free, or as friction-free as possible, and something that, they can exert some control over. And so that kind of moved us away from looking at ETH mainnet, where, somebody mints something, it could be anywhere from a few dollars to tens of dollars, $20 to mint things, which made it challenging. Polygon, interesting, but has some challenges inherent within. And so when we started talking with Josh and the Solana Foundation, it was pretty clear that they'd be a really interesting option to pursue for more mainstream audiences, to help them get an understanding of both the power of blockchain technology, but not too deep of an understanding of the friction that had existed, the onboarding prior to that. So we are excited to be launching into the space. And I know you guys have a lot of mainstream consumers that are coming your way because of the recently announced Shopify partnership. Tell us a little bit about how that came about, and how Solana and cryptocurrencies and blockchain are going to be impacting consumer experiences from an e-commerce standpoint.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the Shopify relationship began almost a year and a half ago, maybe almost closer to 2 years ago now at this point, because we were really interested in, when we initially rolled out the Solana Pay protocol, which is, again, this basic building block for a merchant to consumer transaction to happen natively peer-to-peer on Solana. We wanted Shopify to be a part of our original announcement of the Solana Pay protocol, but it kind of blew their minds, frankly. Like they weren't. It was working through, a major a big company's compliance and legal departments and PR and marketing departments, when the construct that you're working on with them is completely unfamiliar. It was a little challenging. So it didn't work out for launch in February of 22, but we kept in close touch. And when we did launch Solana Pay in February of 22, you can check out more information at solanapay.com. We published a blog post that sort of like talked about the future and what we wanted to build. And we had a little like contact us button on the form on the page that allowed people to write to us and tell us what they wanted to see from Solana Pay. And, there was a lot of press when we launched, and we got hundreds, if not thousands, of responses. And the most requested feature that people wanted to see was an integration with Shopify. So I kind of knew before we launched that the demand was going to be there, but it was incredible to see it validated by just this community of merchants and consumers that really wanted us to enable this. And so pretty soon after launch, we put our heads down with the Solana Labs engineers, and we tried to figure out how to build something like this. And when I say something like this, basically what it is a payment gateway that merchants can turn on. Any merchant who has a merchant front end, an e-commerce front end on Shopify, can opt in and turn on this payment gateway that allows them to accept USDC, which is the USD stablecoin from Circle. So native USDC on Solana, they can accept that in their storefront with just a couple of clicks. And so any user out there in the world who has USDC or any of the Solana tokens that they want to convert into USDC on Solana, they can check out and buy whatever, whatever is possible in the e-commerce universe on Shopify is possible to buy with Solana Pay. And it's very, very simple and seamless. So that USDC gets transferred from the consumer's wallet to the merchant's wallet in fractions of a second for fractions of a penny. There are no fees. Solana is not collecting any fees for this transaction. It is a truly peer-to-peer transaction. There may be Shopify fees that are added on depending on the merchant's relationship with Shopify, but that's between the merchant and Shopify. So from Solana's point of view, it's fee-free. We've removed as many intermediaries as possible. So, issuing banks, acquiring banks, credit card companies, debit rails, all of those things don't exist when this transaction takes place. It's truly a peer-to-peer or merchant-to-consumer blockchain-based payment. So we built this ourselves within Solana Pay, within the Solana Lab. We built a Solana Pay plugin within the Solana Labs organization, and jumped through all the hurdles that Shopify requires. So, for example, merchants have to identify who they are and do a little KYB, or know your business. And once the merchant has cleared those hurdles, they can add our plugin, And again, it's free from our perspective to use, and any merchant who is interested can turn it on. So it's only been live, I think, a couple of weeks, maybe less than that. And hundreds of merchants have installed this app already. And I actually, one of them is the Solana merch store. So if you're interested in buying something like this, you can go to store.solana.com and test it out yourself. I bought a beanie. So I live in San Francisco, and even in the winter, or even in the summer, it feels like winter. So we always have use for beanies here. So my beanie came, just like any other e-commerce delivery, and I never touched fiat. I never touched US dollars. Everything was covered by this, USDC transaction. So my money went from my wallet to, Solana's merch store wallet, completely in USDC, and it was seamless. It worked great. So I encourage people to give it a shot.
Awesome.
So if I could jump in with a couple questions regarding the Shopify integration, and then we'll get to the Visa news as well. But, there's probably quite a few folks in the audience that aren't necessarily, blockchain native, blockchain savvy. You did a really great job of kind of steel manning the case for why this is useful for merchants. Can you give these folks like a user journey from the standpoint of I want to buy a piece of merch from a regular person who put up a Shopify website? What do I need a wallet? Do I need to know what I'm doing? What do I need? And then maybe do the same from the perspective of a merchant.
For sure, yeah. So for consumers, it helps to have a little familiarity with crypto, and you do need a Solana-based wallet. Okay. There are many of them out there. So you can either use a custodial wallet like a Coinbase. Probably a lot of users are familiar with Coinbase and keeping some assets there. Or a non-custodial wallet like Phantom or Glow or Otter. There's probably dozens of them on Solana. And those allow you to hold your assets, sort of locally, right? Not on an exchange, not in a centralized location. So if you have a little bit of familiarity, it's easier. And what this allows you to do is really like buy things in the real world without having to off-ramp your crypto into dollars, right? So there are many people who have been holding cryptocurrencies now for a decade, and they haven't really been able to do anything with them except hold them and hope that they go up and not down, right? Or buy, in the last couple of years, digital goods like NFTs that either appreciate in value or depreciate in value, or give you access or utility to some sort of brand or a Discord or a community. And that's great. And we've seen a lot of that over the last couple of years. But really, this gives you a way now to off-ramp your crypto into real world physical goods. Because there are, 2.5 million or so merchants with Shopify storefronts selling everything you can possibly imagine. Probably some of your favorite brands in the world you don't even know. Their e-commerce experiences are powered by Shopify. So this allows you now, as a regular person who might have some crypto that they've been holding on to use that in a commerce experience that is now more than just a payment. So I didn't talk about this before, but now this gives me the opportunity to dive in a little bit. What a blockchain-based or a Solana Pay-based payment does is it allows you to really open up like a two-way communication channel with the merchant. So it's not really just a payment rail anymore. It becomes a communication channel between your wallet address and the merchant's wallet address. And what that means is the merchant can see into your wallet, hey, maybe this customer is holding an NFT that represents a loyalty program or an adjacent brand that this merchant has partnered with. And because I can see into that wallet and see that token exists, maybe I want to offer this customer free shipping or a discount on the products they're about to check out with, or maybe I want to give them, an extra bit of utility or value next time they come to my site. And I recognize that they have this token and I can remember it and I can sort of, automatically initiate that loyalty experience without the user having to do anything. And that's really, really powerful. So you can think of this two-way communication channel as almost like replacing some of the other communication channels that brands have been relying on for years, like email. We all know how crowded our email inboxes are. We have like dozens of ways to remove the spam and the filtering and not hear from the brands that are in our lives. Yeah. Well, sort of the wallet address gives brands a new opportunity to maybe like airdrop or automatically distribute something to customers that have interacted with them before. It really, like, I don't want to go too deep into like what could possibly happen here, but there are many, many possibilities that I think are going to emerge over the coming years as merchants realize that this creates a deeper connection with the consumer than just like, hey, you swiped a card, it was anonymous, and I'm never going to see you again. It really creates a little bit of a relationship. So that's on the consumer side. On the merchant side, the sky's the limit for you. You now have the ability to add Solana Pay as a payment mechanism and then dream up whatever kind of loyalty or rewards experience that you want to dream up. We've even included at the solanapay.com website and in our documentation the bare bones like Lego building blocks of a loyalty experience that gives any merchant the ability to turn on like a Target or Walmart level loyalty experience that allows 5% cash back or free drink on your next purchase. Like whatever a merchant dreams up, it is now doable through the basic reference implementations that we've distributed open source now out into the world. And it gives small merchants the ability to do these things that it would take big merchants and very large technical teams and developers. It would require those kinds of people to build for you. You don't need that anymore. So I think from a merchant's point of view, it really opens up like a world of possibilities. And again, I don't want to go too deep into the specifics because I think a lot of these things are just on the cusp of being developed right now. And I'm excited to see what happens in the next year or so, given the basic structure that we put in place for people to play with.
Right on. Yeah, I know that when I first started investigating crypto, a couple of things drew me to the space. And this is kind of blockchain technology in general. So just taking a step back for those of you in the audience that may not be as Web3 native or may not be as familiar, the argument for cryptocurrencies is that the legacy banking system is inaccessible for broad audiences. If you have your money in a Wells Fargo or Bank of America or Silicon Valley Bank account, it's at risk, right? The FDIC will insure it up to a certain amount, but you don't truly own that, right? The bank holds it and they are out using that money, making other money with it. So that means that you don't truly own your finances. The third piece is the instantaneous sending and exchange of funds anywhere globally. It's very challenging in many parts of the world. If you look at everything from wire fees, which can be very, very high, especially when you're talking about third world countries. You talk about cross-border transactions, you talk about conversion of currencies. There's a ton of challenges with legacy banking and legacy financial systems. And 50% of the world doesn't even have a bank account. So you think about those big picture issues, and then you start to say, well, blockchain can solve a ton of that, right? You can have a wallet if you have a mobile phone, right? All of a sudden, you have a wallet. Now you can exchange funds if you have access to the internet, right? The fees for fund exchange and the fees for other things on Solana in particular and other blockchains are pennies, right? Not $25 to send a wire, which I actually just had to pay and it was really annoying. So you think about those aspects of commerce and those aspects of the consumer experience and what that means to individuals, not necessarily in fully developed nations, right? I think it's definitely going to be attractive to, and you see a lot of people in the US and other first world nations using it. But what it means in allowing the rest of the world to catch up, to not have to show two forms of identification to open up a bank account, to not have their government limit access to their funds if you're in a war-torn country. It's a very significant development, and I think it's one of the things that's kind of been driving global adoption. So if you're wondering, why do I need to use this as opposed to traditional fiat currency? Those are a few of the reasons that we see, most commonly used. Josh, at the end there, you were talking a little bit about loyalty. And it's one of the best applications I've seen outside of kind of the core transactional elements with Web3 of NFTs and, Web3 in particular, because owning something means that you can then accrue value to it outside of a centralized individual system. And then there's marketplaces all over the place where you can exchange that value. And most Americans and most of us are used to mileage programs from airlines and hotels and credit cards, right? And those points are usually exist singularly within the ecosystem in which you spend them, right? MK, I know you're a Delta flyer. You can't go, I mean, yes, you can go spend Delta miles outside of the Delta ecosystem, but it's not always that.
You don't get as much value.
Right. There's an arbitrage.
There
There's a cost to that. NFTs and, blockchain is forever. So the ability to have a token and to tokenize your participation, to tokenize your community, to tokenize your fandom, that's really one of the killer apps that we're just scratching the surface of now as we talk about utility. So I'll open it up to anybody. MK, I don't know if you want to chat a little bit about this too, from a marketing perspective, about the power of using NFTs as kind of a medium for new next generation loyalty programs, but would love to get all of your thoughts on that.
I think there's something really interesting about partnerships that didn't require both parties' consent to set up. The idea that you hold the Budweiser NFT and I'm launching a marketing project that I think Budweiser consumers would like, so I want to honor that in our system or something like that. That's super interesting to me, that targeted marketing can happen, recognition of audiences and loyalty programs without really advanced API and CRM integrations and things to make these audiences match up with email unique identifiers or something. Just with a click of a button, being able to say, recognize this contract and this contract and this contract. All of these people get my store discount, or all of these people should be able to get early access to tickets to my event, or whatever it is. I think that interoperability probably isn't the right word. But there's something about the partnerships.
We like to say composability, but yeah.
There we go. Yeah,
I completely agree. I mean, the thing that excites me the most is being able to, go to complementary brands and help them market to their communities and say, guess what? You can do these things that you've been dreaming of doing without any technical expertise, without having to fire up a Web3, development team. Like, use the building blocks that are already in place on Solana and allow, or any blockchain, but I'm going to say Solana here, and allow your communities to activate each other and accrue and deliver value to each other without having to do that. And it's been around for years, right? Like, rental car companies market to airline companies and airline companies market to rental car companies. They're complementary. It makes a lot of sense, but it took, tons of work. And as you said, like, back-end matching and, develop and we, so many developers to make any of this happen. And now it can be done with, some contracts and NFTs and a few lines of code. And it's pretty great.
Who's going to be the first one to honor the Starbucks NFTs outside of the Starbucks ecosystem for being worth something?
No, I'm not sure. Maybe Pete's to try to do some sniping there. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. I have no inside information at all.
Yeah, it is fascinating, the ability to, and this comes back, Josh, to what you were talking about earlier a little bit, which is that your wallet is going to hold more than money. Mm-hmm. Right? It's going to hold elements of your digital identity. And that's what I think the transformational power of Web3 is. And if you're listening to this as a brand marketer, thinking about your audience and the evolution of your audience and the changing demographics and consumption of digital media and all of the rest, that digital identity component is incredibly powerful, because ownership of an NFT, whether that's earned through a loyalty program, whether that's purchased as part of, a community that you want to be a part of, says something about you, right? It will tell those who have access to the contents and others more about you than posting up a, picture of your vacation or your dinner or, your kids, which I think is how digital identity is often defined today, right? It's what you're posting on Insta or TikTok, or if you're a boomer, maybe Facebook. But the digital wallet is going to house so much more. and it's going to be such an integral part of our day-to-day lives. It's going to be how you log in, right? It's going to be how you sign on to websites. It's going to be containing other digital assets that have value. All of that is kind of coming together, and this commerce portion is a portion of that, right? I think it's the most easily understood portion up front, but it's all changing, and I think it's all going to be pretty impactful as we continue to grow.
Yeah, and I want to add too, I think for those who haven't had a lot of exposure to NFTs in this world and have maybe only been reading headlines about, buying multi-million-dollar JPEGs for, with gas, $100 worth of gas to make the transaction happen, it would be really hard for somebody that only knows NFTs in that context to imagine a world where everything is driven by NFTs. But what you have to understand is that the tech is getting so much better, and especially in the Solana ecosystem, where we just launched compressed NFTs a couple of months ago, which allows you to mint 10 million NFTs for I think less than $1,000. And so if you're gonna power global loyalty experiences, where I think Starbucks has 60 million people in their loyalty program, if you're going to, let's say, issue a digital receipt that lives as an NFT in your wallet that allows you to document a purchase or provide proof of if you need a warranty claim or something later on, we're all going to have millions and millions and millions of these NFTs floating around representing our digital selves, as you said, stuffing them into our digital wallets, like George Costanza with all of his many stuffed into his wallet. Yeah, you can't do that if an NFT costs even $1 to mint or a few dollars to transfer from one place to another. So with Solana, where transactions cost, a fraction of a penny, 0.00025 cents per transaction, and an NFT can be minted for also fractions of a penny, this stuff starts to become possible, and you can actually imagine a world where all of these things are NFTs floating around behind the scenes, representing your digital identity, storing your purchases digitally, and we can sort of get these things out of the Gmail inbox and into a true representation of a digital wallet that controls our commerce experiences online.
Awesome.
We do have a first couple questions from the audience. I'll pin one of these up here. Filing a dispute. So that's a huge part of e-commerce, is refunds and all of that. Especially, I feel like there's all kinds of things in place usually to prevent certain countries or flagged profiles who might be suspicious and things like that. So is that all stuff you guys took into consideration?
Yeah, so there's definitely a way to file a dispute if you get a product or don't get a product with the merchant, and returns are very, very much possible. They're not automatic, right? It's not like with a credit card where you can just go to your credit card company and say, hey, please reverse this transaction. Also, merchants frequently are the victims of those chargebacks for fraudulent claims from users of credit cards. So we've essentially created digital cash that once it goes from your customer wallet or consumer wallet to the merchant wallet, it's there. But a merchant can, using the Solana Pay protocol, initiate a refund and send that digital cash back from the merchant to the consumer. But we're preventing things like chargebacks and long settlement times. Like when the downside of a credit card is the fees and the long settlement times, right? So you as a merchant, it takes sometimes several days to get the funds for something that you've maybe already shipped several days prior. So a merchant gets those digital dollars, that USDC, instantly, and can pay payroll and can buy more inventory or more merchandise. So yeah, we've thought of that, and it is possible to initiate a refund or a return through the protocol.
Awesome. And we have a second question here. Will Solana Pay be available for offline payments via Shopify POS terminals? So I think of Shopify's on-site terminals. We used them at ComplexCon years ago in the merch store, and man, did I move a lot of merch that year, a lot of skateboards, very, very heavy merchandise. But I know the payment part was the most frictionless piece of that experience. Fulfillment of orders was way harder than actual payment. So I'm curious how this affects the in-store and in-person experiences too.
Yeah. So, and I know the questioner, Niaz, we work together at Google. So if I'm allowed to shout out folks when they ask great questions, what's up, man? Good to see you. Yeah, so this particular announcement is just about e-commerce, and this integration is just e-commerce. POSs are a whole nother beast, and we are working on several integrations. And I know that there are a few different Solana ecosystem projects that have already solved this. So take a look at Helio, Decaf, DPay. Many of these guys have built point of sale integrations that allow you to pay with crypto at the point of sale. I've also seen some great Square terminal integrations. So these all require a little bit of dev, sometimes some BD work, some partnership work to get the flows in place and to get the fees taken care of. But it is something that we're working on as well. I think I worked at Google at the very beginning of the last decade, so 2011, when tap and pay was just a dream. And we launched the first phone at Google that had an NFC chip and a tap and pay capability with, I think, one terminal and 3 or 4 merchants. And here we are about a decade later. It only took a decade, and you can tap and pay almost anywhere. So I've seen firsthand how long hardware, how it takes for hardware to evolve. And I think it's probably going to take a while as well with crypto, because these are new rails that some of these, established players are going to have to figure out new flows for, and new ways of doing business and new ways to add value. But we're getting there, and I think we're going to see some innovation over the next year or so.
It took forever for phone manufacturers to be able to natively read QR codes out of the camera of your phone.
Yeah.
I remember how painful it was to try to use a QR code and you have to download a QR app or QR reader app. Yeah. And the NFC chip, the lack of NFC chip in Apple devices forever.
Oh, yeah. I think it was 2017. Like, we did it at Google in 2011. It was 6 more years before the NFC chip hit the iPhone. And we were just, blown away. I mean, they wait and they take their time, and I get that. But this hardware innovation takes time.
It's nice not having to carry a wallet around, though. I'm just waiting for my driver's license to be in my wallet, in my phone as well.
I think some states are looking at that. Like, there might be some pilots going on in a few states.
There are a couple, for sure.
California is running a pilot.
That's right.
You can store your driver's license on your phone.
That's right. Yeah.
I would jump right in that. I don't want to.
Same. So you had mentioned some of these, big players, crypto, new rails, the integration with hardware, et cetera. I wanted to kind of transition a little bit to the news that came out, I think it was today or yesterday, regarding the partnership with Visa expanding their stablecoin settlement pilot with Solana. That's huge. Can you tell us a little bit about, what that is and, and what folks can expect?
Yeah, it is really big. So just to be clear, it's not officially a partnership because anyone can build on Solana. It's an open, permissionless blockchain. What actually happened there is they spent several months. Visa has a very large and very capable and technically smart crypto team. And they spent several months evaluating chains to expand their USDC settlement pilot. And I'll explain what that is in a second. It started on Ethereum, and what they announced is yesterday that they've expanded this to include Solana, USDC, and several acquiring banks, including WorldPay, in the background. And what's actually happening is, behind the scenes, when you process a credit card or you transact using your credit card, there are many, many banks involved behind the scenes transferring money to each other, issuing banks, acquiring banks, et cetera. And so those flows are now happening already today using the Solana blockchain to process USDC from one bank to another. And the reason for that is that it's extremely fast and incredibly cheap. And again, it comes down to how quickly can people get their money? Because we all know that there is a time value to money. The longer the money is sitting in Eric's wallet because he hasn't paid me back for lunch, the less time I have to do something with that money. So this is now happening on Solana behind the scenes. And I think what this really demonstrates is that a legacy player in payments who everybody trusts, who has been around forever, went out into the world and did technical due diligence on every blockchain out there and came away with the decision that Solana was the place to expand this pilot because it was secure and fast enough and cheap enough. The speed isn't something we've really talked about yet, but a Solana transaction settles in about a second or less. There are various new validator clients that are going to be coming online. One is called FireDancer, which are going to speed that up. Today we do hypothetically about 65,000 transactions per second in terms of throughput on the network. But the FireDancer validator client will bump that up to in testing, we've seen 500,000 to 1.2 million transactions per second on the network. VisaNet does, I think, 60 or 70,000 transactions per second. So this would be, 10 times order of magnitude faster. And, the folks that move money around the world see what's possible with these fast blockchains like Solana, and they realize, okay, we have to start experimenting here. We have to not get left behind as technology makes it so that you can do these transactions, extremely cheap and incredibly fast. So Visa chose to expand this pilot on Solana. We're super happy. It's an incredible signal to the rest of the payments and fintech and commerce space that this is a place where the Solana should be known as a payments chain and a commerce chain. So I'm excited to see where else it goes. We do have frequent contact with the Visa team. I can't share anything on their future plans, but I know that they're going to continue to iterate and build on what they want to try to do using our network.
Come on, you can just leak like a little bit.
No, I would. My cell phone would start ringing immediately.
Sure, it would. They're listening right now. Yeah.
You can't do that. Sorry, man.
That's great. So, a little bit expanding a little bit more, broader on Solana Foundation itself, right? So far we've talked about, NFTs, compressed NFTs. We talked about, loyalty. We talked about payments. We talked about, a number of different, blockchain-based activations. So what is the mission of the Solana Foundation, and what is kind of your role in fulfilling that?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. It can be confusing because Solana, the name and the token and the foundation and labs,
Sure.
it gets bandied around and nobody really understands. So the Solana blockchain again is permissionless, open source. Anybody can build on it. No one owns it. It's run on a few thousand validators that are validating transactions around the world. As long as those validators keep going, or any one of them keeps going, the Solana network continues as a global state machine. It can't go away. No one can control it, right? So then you've got Solana Labs and Solana Foundation. Solana Labs develops the software that helps maintain the protocol across all these computers, and develops things like Solana Pay for payments. They also recently announced that they're going to start building protocol level development tools for games. Something called GameShift was announced recently, so that if you're a game developer and you want to add, Web3 components like wallets or NFTs or token gating or whatever to your game, microtransactions, like it's really complicated. You just want to focus on making a great game. You don't want to have to figure out how to decode all these acronyms that we talk about in Web3 and in crypto. So this is going to be, again, a suite of tools that allows for game developers to add these components to their games. So Solana Labs builds things like that enable more creativity and innovation on the blockchain. Solana Foundation is where BD people like myself, partnerships people, marketing people, PR people, developer relations people, lawyers, all these other people sit to try to advance the interests of and the community and ecosystem around the Solana blockchain. So, for example, we have a policy person whose job it is, like you see with Coinbase and all the policy moves that they've been making to try to get, sane stablecoin regulation in place in the United States. We have a policy person that also tracks what's happening in Congress, what's happening around the world, and tries to advance, the interests of our blockchain and all blockchains, so that we can have like a clear, clean regulatory framework with which to work and innovate. So that person sits at Foundation. That's Amira. We have plenty of BD people. We have some marketing people, some designers. Like today, we just announced our latest hackathon, and it's called Hyperdrive, I think, or Hyperspace. Hyperdrive. They're going to kill me because I can't. I think it's Hyperdrive. And there's a bunch of assets that go out into the world to help promote this, because developers live on X or Twitter. They live on YouTube. So we put out videos, we put out visual assets, and we have designers that like put those together. A good buddy of mine, Ross, puts together the greatest hype videos for our hackathons that you've ever seen. So, those kind of people are here in Foundation trying to promote the interests of the Foundation and really empower the ecosystem of companies building on the on the Solana blockchain to have the best possible chance of success. Because if they succeed and there is more demand for transactions and more demand for block space, then we all succeed, right? So like blockchain gets into more people's hands, and the technology propagates and hopefully changes people's lives. So that's what we're here. That's what we're doing.
Love it. So this got a pie in the sky question, right? What is, like, if you could, go into the future 10 years, right? What's going on the Solana blockchain 10 years from now?
Oh man. Well, so I've been at Solana for 2 years, and so much has happened that
by the way, sorry, it's like 100 years of normal time. So
right.
That's too much.
Yeah.
It's already 20 years. Come on.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I don't know. I think we've solved world peace. No. I mean, assuming that we get a clear regulatory framework in place in the next couple of years.
Sure.
And people can truly innovate on open public blockchains. 10 years is truly a long time, because a lot of the things that it would take years to build in a Web 2.0 or even Web 1.0 world can happen a lot more quickly in composable, that word again, composable blockchain ecosystems. So, I mean, we could see tremendous advances over a 10-year time frame. I think what is truly holding people back is, questions about, like, when I spend my USDC on a Shopify storefront, is that a taxable event? Like, what am I actually doing there? Or a merchant, like, hey, I've just accepted this USDC. Like, what does that mean for my accounting purposes? Like, there's just all these questions that, like, because we don't have clear answers from laws and from Congress and from governments, and people are a little afraid to jump in, whole cloth. Like, we're not seeing that step function level advancement in innovation. And so over a 10-year time frame, like, it's hard for me to even imagine. I mean, we could move like entire industries over to open permissionless blockchains if we get those right building, like regulatory building blocks in place. So I mean, I would love to have this is like really sad, like in a commerce environment, like, this is kind of sad to admit, but all my receipts come to my Gmail, right? And I have this like filter called like receipts, and I'm still manually tagging every time I make an online purchase, like, this is a receipt that I might want to hold on to. In 10 years, I hope that my entire process for like buying things online has evolved to the point where, like, I don't even have to think about it anymore. Like, I can just see an item in, let's say, an Instagram ad that looks interesting to me. I like hold down on my phone, or maybe in my Apple Vision Pro, like, I look at the right, I look at the right corner of the screen, and all of a sudden USDC immediately transfers to the merchant, and there's no receipt to worry about, because I have an NFT that represents this purchase, and my loyalty, my loyalty program has automatically updated with this latest purchase, and they're already marketing to me something new that they know, because they can read my mind, I'm already interested in, right? Like the future is tremendous if you go out that far, I think. So I don't know.
Future me is going to be broke. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really easy to spend money. That's what I think is the future. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, good.
I love where you're going with that, because honestly, you think about what you said, and there, really, that's representative of a trend we're already seeing manifest, which is personalization. And you start getting into hyper personalization, not you're part of a demographic, like I'm male, age 40 to 50, blah, blah, blah. It's, I know what you're doing, when you're doing it, how you're doing it. And I know that there are privacy concerns and all that. But I think that greater control over your individual digital life and over your own data will enable you to make the decision to allow access to things that can add value. Another kind of big high level trend you touched on there, just unpacking it a little bit more, was efficiency, right? I don't want to have 12 clicks to do things. I want to have things done instantly and seamlessly. And then I want to be able to categorize that at the end of my year for taxes, or I want to be able to kind of just have things flow, right? Which, as it turns out, is kind of what smart contracts are meant to do, right? That's the deal. So I love the concepts that you're pursuing. I'm in line with you, right? I think it's instant, it's inexpensive, it's incredibly efficient, and there's an easily accessible and intuitive way to parse all of that data so that you can track it and follow it and have a sense of it on your own. I think all those things are kind of where we're going. I think those are all the things that the technology is enabling. And that's, again, not always just in a purchase context, but in the context of consumerism in general, and for brands and their relationships with consumers. The key is going to be because you add in a layer of AI into that, and then that's kind of starts getting you into super personalized, right? It gets into predictive analytics. It gets into, creative generative components that will enhance a consumer's experience. And then you've got this permanent record of all those things. It's a really powerful combination, and all that's changing and changing for the better.
And I want to bring like some of the joy and fun back to commerce too. Like, I think like it's a shame that a lot of these big, malls and big box stores are closing down and moving everything online, because there's this element of like the treasure hunt and the discovery and the joy and the surprise and delight that you get from wandering around a mall or a big department store and finding a great deal or finding something that you didn't know you wanted. And so I would love for a lot of the technologies that we're talking about to enable more of these great user experiences, to bring that joy and that discovery and that treasure hunt back to shopping. We used to talk a lot about this at Google a decade ago, and trying to figure out how to do that in a world where everybody just sort of like started at Amazon and like searched for exactly what they wanted and then bought it, as cheap as they possibly could. That's not what, retail therapy is not meant to work like that. Like it's supposed to actually provide you some joy and not some frustration and just like constantly like, oh my God, like, did I find the best deal? Could I have found this cheaper somewhere else? Like, and that's kind of like this race to the bottom that e-commerce, I feel like has trended toward over the last few years. And so I'm hopeful that like these technology solutions that we're talking about can really, solve a lot of the, crazy connections that have enabled a lot of these disjointed shopping experiences. And then we can focus on creating better consumer experiences that really bring joy back to shopping.
As the most price sensitive person on the team, often made fun of for my frugality and couponing, one of the highlights of my Labor Day weekend was keeping an eye on Rakuten.
Mm-hmm.
Because on holidays, I've come to expect that they're going to put certain brands on a really high cash back list. I treated myself to Bombas socks, right? That is my big splurge. So it was a more premium purchase, right? I didn't go to Walmart and get socks. I got the nice brand that I wanted to, but it was that sense of winning that I waited until a 15% cash back offer came back. Like I absolutely joy to be found in the e-retail space. And I think architecting experiences like that is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And it absolutely does give the serotonin rush, even though you're not unboxing and getting the full shopping experience that you would have had coming out of the store with bags in hand.
This is why TJ Maxx and Home Goods exist, and very intentionally place objects in random spaces for the joy of discovery and for the exploration and for all of that. So yeah. It is an intentional strategy in the retail space. I'd love to see more of that in the digital world.
Yeah, me too.
I think we get blind reveals and mystery boxes and stuff like that kind of gets at it. But there's something to be said for a journey of discovery and taking consumers on, a slightly different path than straightforward, one click, bought it, and it shows up on my doorstep. Love the efficiency, but the magic can be lacking.
Yeah, exactly.
So to reset the room, for all of you guys that have joined us live, we appreciate you all. We do this every 2 weeks, typically on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time. We are Gen City Labs, and Josh Freed with Solana Foundation has been kind enough to join us today to talk a little bit about the future of e-commerce, cryptocurrency, the Solana blockchain, NFTs, and more. If you're listening to this on YouTube or Twitter or wherever else we will publish it, we appreciate you there as well. And pay attention, because we have some really fun shows coming up in the next month or so. We're going to dive into social media. We might dive into some new browser stuff. We'll dive into more and more event technologies as well. So there's a lot to come on the Gen City Labs LinkedIn Lives. Wrapping up, final lightning round. Koa, final thoughts on the future of commerce. Not the vision for the future, but tell me what gets you most excited.
So for context, Shaman goes by Shaman. I go by Koa. These are
oh yeah,
legacy
that's right. You
names
put your real name up there
from our NFT PFP collection. So we're getting used to the LinkedIn Live coming from Twitter Spaces. But future of e-commerce for me is,
what are you excited about?
So for me, I'm really excited about this idea that you have a public record of me, of the things that I have bought, of the things that have been sent to me, of the things that I like in a public database, Solana blockchain, and it shows, everything I have, and that's available to anybody. So any innovative idea, a partner might target me and say, hey, you like X, Y, and Z, you're gonna like A, B, and C as well. So they'll might see a Claynosaur NFT in my Phantom wallet, for example, which is one of the great collections on the Solana blockchain. Really cool, fun clay animations. You're also gonna love this other collection, So point being, I'm excited about actually having a more integrated network that moves much faster, so that I can sort of find the things that I love, and the things that I love can find me easier.
Love it. MK, what do you got?
I'm going to go with frictionless rewards. So I brought up Rakuten. It's great. It's a hub. Everything's in one spot. I think of Starbucks and Delta, their partnership. I connected my accounts once, set it and forget it. I'm always going to be rewarded with Sky Miles for my Starbucks purchases. I have zero tolerance right now for these credit card offers that I have to keep track of and I have to opt in. That's not a reward to me. That's a pain in the ass. That's shitty marketing. I don't want my credit card to tell me you have 30 days left to go to Shake Shack and get 5% cash back. Like, that's not the hub that I want. My credit card is not the hub. Or it's not where I'm going when I'm thinking about picking a restaurant. It's not a logical flow. So getting to the point where rewards are frictionless and low lift and make me feel like a recognized VIP for my spend. Like, great, I have a Delta Amex and you want to recognize me for it. Don't make me dig through the portal, find the right tab, scroll down 18 times, opt in ahead of doing the action. Like, get better. That experience is what excites me.
Love it. Josh, what do you got?
So there's a really popular boba tea joint in San Francisco and also New York and LA called Boba Guys. And we announced in April that we're building a loyalty program with them on the Solana blockchain as the rails powering the whole thing. And both of my kids are obsessed with boba tea. So I am looking forward to a day, and very soon, probably in the next month or so, where I'll be able to go into a local Boba Guys and show them how loyalty on the blockchain works, while at the same time feeding their urges for another, a Thai iced tea with boba and lychee jelly at the bottom, because it'll truly bring together like something that they love and something that I love and work on, and everyone will be happy. So
I love
loyalty on the blockchain coming very soon.
Right on. I was going to go with loyalty too, just because the ability for communities to form, for identity to be shared, is going to change how we interact with brands. It's going to change how we interact with each other. And I think we're just at the very, very bottom of the first inning, super early in terms of adoption, awareness, and potential. So I think, I think we all share that we're excited about what the future holds. So thank you all once again. We appreciate your spending some time with us on LinkedIn or YouTube or Twitter or wherever you are consuming this experience today. We appreciate you all, and we'll see you on the next one. Josh, thanks so much for